It's great to have Bill Richmond of BlueBet Holdings with us again. Bill is the CEO of BlueBet Holdings, who just released their Q2 results. Good evening to you, Bill.
Good evening, Russell.
First question is, you've just released your Q2 results, so could you just give an overview of the results, please?
Yeah, sure. Now, another strong set of results for BlueBet in what was an extremely busy and competitive quarter, particularly here in Australia. There was an enormous amount of content going on with the end of our football seasons, the spring racing carnival, and obviously the Football World Cup, which drove a huge amount of interest. In an extremely competitive quarter, we recorded record acquisition for the business, which drove our active customers up 32% to nearly 60,000. So what was an incredibly competitive quarter, that was certainly a very strong result. The huge interest in the World Cup saw our sport turnover increase by 57%, which had a short-term impact on our margin, which will certainly normalise and has normalised so far this calendar year. But brought a lot of new customers to the business, so that was certainly a positive. We would have certainly liked to have seen France get past Argentina there, but it was a incredibly well supported event by punters, and it was generated a lot of interest even here in Australia, where it's not our number one sport and it's not sort of the best time zone. As it been a lot of events on, we did make a significant investment in marketing in the quarter with that extra competition and extra events. Certainly that drove that record acquisition, so that was a great result, and certainly the right decision to make. And that investment will normalise in the second half of the year. But as I said, making that investment at that time with some new competitors coming into the space and the extra content, we certainly thought was the right decision. And that increased acquisition certainly made that a well worthwhile exercise. From a US point of view, we launched in Iowa. It's gone very well. Very early days. We've invested a very minimal amount of marketing so far. But we've seen the ClutchBet brand rise from number 10 of 19 brands in Iowa by revenue. So given how little we've invested, how short a time we've been live there, that's certainly a very strong result. We've also built significantly on our product there, which will stand us in very good stead for when we launch in Colorado later in this quarter.
That's great, thank you. And the second question is, in Australia, could you talk a bit about the competitive landscape, how you're seeing it develop, and how you're responding to that?
Yeah, certainly. Q2 is always an extremely competitive quarter in Australia, driven primarily by the spring racing carnival. As I touched on there were those extra activities during the quarter as well. That was driven further this year by a major new competitor entering the market. As a result, we did increase our investment in marketing, which, as I said, paid dividends. What we've really seen and heard back from our customers, though, is it's our product that's the most important thing, and that's really what's driving our competitive advantage. It's the most important differentiator for us going forward. Certainly, we'll be bringing our marketing back to normalised levels going forward, and what we'll really be relying from both a retention and acquisition point of view is that differentiated product. It certainly gives us a major advantage over those competitors who are using off-the-shelf platforms. So, while it's a more competitive landscape, what we're really backing going forward is, our knowledge of running, sportsbooks, which we've done for a long time, and building technology platforms that, have that intuitive UX for our customers, and innovate a product that they'll really appreciate going forward. So while we've seen increased competition, we're very confident that even with normalised levels of marketing going forward, that the business is in a great position to continue to grow and take market share in Australia.
My next question, moving on to the US, you've already referred to the launch of ClutchBet in Iowa. So could you just give a bit more detail on that, please? And more generally, could you talk about how the rollout in the US is going and how you're differentiated versus the competitors?
Yeah, sure. So Iowa launched late August, so not that long ago, really as a proof of concept and really get our product right. We've invested a very small amount of marketing at this stage. As I touched on, we've risen to number 10 of 19 operators there, which is a good result given that small investment so far. What we've really focused on is improving our product. It's obviously the US is much more focused on live sports betting than the Australian market, much like the European market. So that's something we've certainly worked on. We continue to improve that product all the time. And that will stand us in really good stead for our launch in Colorado. We're looking for a March launch in Colorado, ahead of the March Madness basketball tournaments over there, which are obviously a driving factor with a number of large colleges in both those states. So that's certainly something we're very focused on. How we're differentiating ourselves in the US market is really through a hyper-localized approach. Obviously, there's a number of really big brands out there, whether it be the DraftKings and FanDuels of the world, who are running massive national campaigns. What we're focused on is trying to be, it's our advantage only being in these handful of states, is we can really get in, at the grassroots and focus on localized events, localized sporting competitions, and that sort of thing. And that's certainly generating, the majority of our leads for us. We think that really localized approach that, those bigger brands aren't going to have on the ground is something that's going to be a key differentiating point for us. Obviously, the state-based nature and the licensing in the US makes it, makes that model possible. If you're looking at a national branding campaign, obviously it's very different, but given the state-based nature and the licensing and the importance that's placed on that local market, that's certainly how we're going to differentiate ourselves in Iowa and Colorado and states to come.
And how is the B2B business developing? Has there been any change to the strategy or the competitive environment?
No, our strategy remains very much the same. What we're hearing from potential partners on the ground, and we are out there having a lot of conversations now that we are live in the US, is that there is clearly a demand for quality and differentiated product. A lot of those smaller operators to mid-sized operators have been operating on similar off-the-shelf platforms, and really with those, it's hard to compete with those bigger operators. So what our potential partnership would give to them is something that is different, something that's innovative. We've competed with the big multinational companies in Australia for a long, long time. We know how to compete with them. So really, we can give them a product that can compete with them. We're having a range of different discussions out there. As we've mentioned, we're presenting at the Tribal Gaming Convention in San Diego in March. Certainly California was a state that we were looking towards, and there has been a bit of a setback there with those bills being defeated in November last year. But certainly, I think we're going to see sports books in California at some point. I would think 2024. And our model, I think, certainly is a very attractive model for California. If it's the Indian tribes who may have exclusivity there as well. So there's a range of different potential partners for us. There's a lot of new states that are looking at different ways the market access is going to be provided. So we still think there's a strong demand for the B2B model in the US, and our strategy certainly remains very much on track there.
And your BlueBet Global Platform is due to be delivered by the end of FY23. Could you give some details on what it is and how you expect it to scale your business?
Yes, certainly. It's our new primary back-end engine. It allows us to centralize a lot of the major functions, event administration, our pricing, our resulting, most importantly, our risk management. And it allows us to sort of manage that on a global scale, while obviously drilling down with different markets and different opportunities in localized markets. And that'll certainly work across both Australia, our B2C businesses, and our B2B, future B2B businesses as well. The tools that will allow that really centralized, risk management certainly will allow us to sort of continue to grow scale without adding to our fixed cost. So that drives significant operating leverage for us going forward. It really is a key part of our, what we're building long term. It allows us to run our Australian business as a B2C business, our US B2C businesses, plus our US B2B, all off one platform, all with really strong teams, managing both from a risk management, from a customer service, from an IT point of view. So it offers us the opportunity to grow significant scale without continued cost.
And finally, could you give some overview of what you expect to happen in the second half of the year, please?
Yeah, certainly we're going to continue to work to grow the Australian business. There'll be certainly a return to normalised spend and margins in H2. we'll still see the Australian business return to positive operating cash flow, which is a major thing we're looking to do in H2. We did take those significant step changes in investment in the first half, but they really did deliver strong results. And we'll see the benefit of that, in H2 as well. Having a lot of our clients come on in the back half of the half, we haven't derived the full benefit from those at this point. So certainly, we're looking forward to getting the value out of those customers and out of that investment we made previously. We want to continue to take market share in Australia, continue to scale the business in Australia. We think that's incredibly important. As I said, we are bringing the cost back to normalised levels, but we still think we can continue to take market share and continue to grow the business in Australia, which is certainly something we want to do. Continue to invest in our global trading platform is a huge thing for us. We're looking to have that completed by the end of this financial year, and that will allow us to bring on certainly more states in a more efficient manner. Will also allow us to bring on B2B partners in a very efficient manner as well. So there's a lot of going on in the business in that front. Looking to go live in Colorado in March. Continue to develop the product in the US in particular. Really focus on that live betting product is something that we're looking to continue to grow out in Iowa and Colorado. Make sure the product as a whole is something that can really compete with the big operators. At that point, obviously, we're going to go out there and really showcasing it to our potential B2B partners. We're doing that all around the US over the coming months. So it's a very busy time across the board, but exciting times as well.
That's great, Bill. Thanks for taking the time to tell us about what's happened at BlueBet.
Great. Thanks, Russell.